I'm not going to go through a whole bunch of slides today and bore you with our production processes and what we do as a slaughterhouse and what have you. But what I will do is just go over briefly what we are, what we do, where we come from, and then highlight some of the things that we've been doing in international markets for our growth trajectory and how OAFT and other people have tied into that. So thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Kathy, for putting this together and for having us here this afternoon. So Ryding has been around since 1983. That's over 30 years at this point. We are the third largest beef processor in Ontario. So that means that after Cargill and St. Helens meat packers, we are the ones who are pretty much picking up the rest of that volume. We're the only kosher slaughterhouse. We are one of the largest halal slaughterhouses. And we're also integrated into two sister companies that do further processing. So that's portioning, marinating, hamburgers, as you've had today on the table. And we're also affiliated with various industry associations. So as you might have heard, Tyler called it the Ontario Corn-Fed Beef. So what that is basically, Ontario Corn-Fed, for those of you who don't know, is a feed program run in association with the Ontario Cattle Feeders Association that guarantees a certain amount of corn ration in the feed. So that has to be at least an 80% corn ration. So what that does, obviously, is it ensures that a certain amount of Ontario corn enters the feed for the Ontario cattle that are being produced, but it also delivers an outcome. When you feed animals a certain way, their meat has a certain quality, certain taste that you get from that. And corn happens to be very high in sugar. So what that does is it gives you a very nice, sweet, beautiful tasting meat, which is different. I don't want to say better, but I want to say different from what's produced out west in Alberta, where most of the Canadian production comes, and that would be fed on barley. So barley has a lower sugar content, it digests differently in the rumen, and obviously therefore produces a different quality meat. All that to say that a corn-fed program, especially in international markets, is coveted because it goes head-to-head most directly with U.S. beef, which is mostly nourished on corn also, and that is our number one competition. So we have been recognized as a quality slaughterhouse. We have markets here in Ontario that are very strong. We're supplying many grocery stores, both with commodity proteins and, of course, with further case-ready, tray-packed, and processed products. We're supplying food manufacturers here. We're supplying food service manufacturers. We have a very strong network with Cisco and others. And we also supply the Quebec market and certain other markets in Canada. So Quebec is a growing market for us now, a market which actually I'm responsible for directly also, given that it's an export, technically an export, a domestic export. But it's a market that I'm responsible for and that is interesting to us because it gives us an opportunity to enhance Ontario's production in Canada as well. And why that's interesting specifically is because Quebec no longer has any slaughterhouses left, federal slaughterhouses at least, that can do any size. So there's a lot of opportunity right next door that's ripe for the picking. Additional to that, we have attacked the export markets pretty hard over the past several years, and that's really where our association with OAFT began and continues to be quite strong. We need to go into these export markets to show these other countries what we're doing. Australia, for an example, is a country that goes out and does tons and tons and tons of advertising in China, for example, as a major market for them. So when you go to China and you talk about grain-fed beef, everybody knows about Australian beef. It's the most famous beef in China, they'll tell you. Australian beef has had market access in China since 2010. So as famous as it is, it's only been 5-6 years that it's there. So we need to be on the ground, feet on the ground, with both salespeople, promotional aspects, to tell people what Canadian beef is, and more importantly, what Ontario beef is, and what the Ontario beef advantage is. So we like to consider ourselves part of a hallmark industry here in Ontario. Cattle obviously is as old as the province to a certain extent. Raising cattle is very important. We'd like to grow with our cattle, our cattle associations, our cattle farmers, make them have an additional place to slaughter their cattle so that there's more place for that in the open market, and ensure Ontario's position going forward as a leader in the Canadian beef business internationally. 20% of Canadian beef is finished in Ontario. Finished, meaning goes into the feedlot and is produced here. We do not export that 20% of Canadian beef. Most of it comes from Alberta. So with the help of OAFT and other organizations, we're looking to really increase those exports, make the Canada Corn-Fed and Ontario Corn-Fed name a name that's known in international markets such as China, Singapore, Japan. Japan, it's already known because there's some other big players there who are doing that. The UAE, so another big market for us is Dubai, Saudi Arabia, where U.S. beef is not allowed. That's basically what we've been doing. So our growth trajectory has been quite steep into international markets recently. We're looking forward to continuing our growth with that to meet different markets. Our halal certifications make us innovative in the fact that we're attaching that to the Ontario Corn-Fed. We have some amazing dry-age products that are coming out soon that'll give us a cut up against the competition where they won't be able to touch us. And all in all, it's been a great couple of years. So we look forward to the continued support of OAFT, the continued support of the potential sundry organizations that come with it. And thank you for your time and listening to me this afternoon.